What is going on, everybody? Hope you are having a good week so far. So this week on the podcast is a special one. It's currently Saturday night in the UK when I'm recording this, and I decided to get Justin J on the podcast. Justin, we've kind of gone through our careers together, really starting off at Dirty Bird. He started his record label Fantastic Voyage. I started mine. We kind of both went our different ways from Dirty Bird, and here we are having this conversation now. And it was a really good conversation, 2.5 hours of me talking to Justin about his process and him talking to me about my process. It was a very two-way conversation. It was a beautiful conversation. I absolutely loved it. He's just also brought out a new record called Rumors. And it's an amazing record, very eclectic, and it's just amazing. So listen to the podcast and then go check it out. Before we start, if you haven't subscribed, hit subscribe. I'd absolutely love it if you could. And yeah, without further ado, Justin J, and we're live, baby. How's it going?
Well, Clarke, dude, I am stoked to be here, man. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for coming on, man. It's been a very long time. I'm trying to think the last time I actually saw you, and I'm thinking it was Dirty Bird Campout.
That could have been. I think the last time we kicked it properly was when I was in Detroit, and we went out for ramen together. Do you remember that?
I do remember that. Where were you playing? Grasshopper.
I played at the Grasshopper, and I was like, "Well, come hop on and play some tunes." And we went back to back for a little bit.
Was Josh Butler there as well, or was it just you and I?
I think it was just you and me. Yeah.
And then
it was tight, though.
Yeah.
I loved that you were down for the impromptu cameo. It's
always great. Well, you know how it is. Like, it's easy being a DJ nowadays. You just carry around a USB stick, and my earplugs are always in my USB stick, or my USB stick's always in my earplugs pouch. So just gotta roll with it, right?
Yes, dude. Yes, exactly. That is 100% the the move. And I relate, like, being in LA when things were normal. I pretty much because I loved going out for music stuff, and even when I'm not DJing and just going for fun and hearing the good music or seeing friends play, and just all the nights where I'd be like, I do have my USB.
You that annoying DJ that always turns up and wants to go back to back with everyone.
It's like, I do want to go back to back, but I'm so bashful about being pushy. So I'm just, there are times where I'll be like in this mode of like existential conflict between this desire to want to be like, yo, dude, I'm down to play a track, versus me being like wanting to be polite and not be overbearing.
Oh my God, I got the funniest story about Holy Ship with that. I can't mention any names because I don't want to throw them under the bus. But I was talking to, all I say is that they're a duo. They were on Holy Ship. And I was talking to I was talking to one of them, and they were like, "Oh, it sucks that no one's doing back-to-backs anymore." Because like Holy Ship was known initially that everyone would just jump on everyone's sets and it would just be a big party. And I was like, "Yeah, I know. No, it's like feels like everyone's just like not doing it." Anyway, they jumped on the decks, and then I was like, "Mate, want me to play a tune?" And he was like, "Nah, dude, it's our first set on the ship. We've got a set planned out." And I'm like, "What? Like, you're the reason why. You're the reason why we're not doing back-to-backs."
Oh, man. Oh, dude, respect for being able to ask. See, like, I'm like the coach you got to tap me in. I don't have the confidence to ask. I guess like there might be some exceptions, and they just normally don't go well. Like
I would never ask. I would have never have asked him or the person if we hadn't had that conversation beforehand.
Dude, like at that point, come on. But yeah, dude, it is. I don't know, man. There's something really. It is actually a great feeling when so someone else is DJing. Like I'm thinking about maybe like I feel like this would happen at like space,
Yeah.
like Dirty Bird, like at 1 p.m. or like
Yeah.
10 a.m. and just like hanging in there, being like, "Please tap me in, coach. Come on, just one track, come on." And then and then this is like the image I have in my head would be like he's DJing, he turns around, and he's just.
He just points at you, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, dude, dreams do come true. I'm not gonna let you down. Play the track you've been dreaming of, and then everyone hates it.
What's been your favorite back-to-back set?
Okay, I actually have one that just came to mind. Dirty Bird Campout, the most recent one, Renegade set with two of my close friends who are in my band, homies from high school. These guys, Danny Goliger and Sam Von Horn. And it was a very defining set. It was like this Renegade set that it was like the last performance of the weekend type of thing. Like, there was like one Renegade stage still trying to get after it. And we just played the craziest set I'd ever played. And it really kind of changed the way I thought about DJing, which is crazy.
Really? How so?
Well, it took it to, I think like even at Dirty Bird Campout, I started like exploring this intersection of like playing cheesy pop music and like really weird experimental shit.
Yeah.
Like I remember like that weekend at Campout, I played like, I was playing like a lot of 160 BPM juke and like crazy shit. And also I played like Spice Girls in the same performance. But there was, when you do stuff like that, it's hit or miss. And I think as a DJ, I don't know, there's times where you can do that and it can feel like you're out of the flow and you're kind of grasping for straws and just playing on shuffle. But there was something about what happened that evening that felt really amazing. And yeah, like Sam, my homie, is really into Aphex Twin, and so he was playing like a lot of like, drum and bass speed, IDM, just insane stuff. And then Danny Goliger would play like Outcast. And then like and Danny's also down with the really crazy hip shit too. So it's just like I think it was a pretty beautiful moment because it was like this culmination of a lot of stuff that I was interested in. And then also doing it with, Sam was the dude I would DJ back to back with in high school. He was like the cool popular guy who secretly liked techno.
Yeah.
And I was the guy who was not super cool, but I had Dex. So he was down to DJ with me.
Yeah.
But we had like what's the word? We had similar tastes. And then Danny and Sam were close friends in high school, and they DJ'd together as well. So like, it was like a great like full circle moment at Dirty Bird Campout, which is like always a defining weekend. Yeah, man. How about you? Favorite B2B?
It's really hard because I actually don't like doing back-to-backs. It's really not my thing. But
why not?
Like, I don't.
Be honest.
Yeah,
Be
no.
honest.
I think for me, it's like, it's not. I like a DJ set to really flow, and to like, I want to give the crowd the best time ever, and I don't always think back-to-backs are, because I always think it's the DJs. And I don't think it's necessarily purposely done, but I think the DJs are kind of fighting against each other, where it's like, oh, you play this record, then I've got in my head what I'm going to play next, but then you play something else, and I've got to find something else that works with that. And I love that to a certain extent, but I feel that sometimes it's just, or a lot of the time, it's just very, very hard to kind of get a very good setup. It's always fun. When you're playing with somebody, it's always so much fun. But my favorite back-to-back set, funny enough, was at Dirty Bird Camp Out. It's me and Kill Frenzy, and we played.
That's awesome.
It was just kind of like, it was just like perfect. There was like no. Kill did like he like made an intro track that was just like named all of the like Dirty Bird guys with no panties on, and it was just like, it was just the most perfect start to the set, and we went in. We were playing like hard, and the crowd were just in it, and they were just ready for it. And that's the thing that I find, that back to backs, a lot of the time the crowd don't know what to expect, and the DJs don't know what to expect. When they come off well, it's like the best feeling because it's you and your mate doing it. But when they don't, it's like the worst feeling.
Yeah. You know, and that's interesting because that, in the context of like a proper performance, you know, where it's like big stage, expectations, that can be tough, you know, in terms of really being on the same page with the person you're playing with. And yeah, like for those types of moments to come through, that's pretty epic. Yeah, like, and I hear you in terms of that flow. You know, I think it's interesting because I think context is so crucial. Like the bigger the stage, I feel like the less ADD it feels like you can be.
Yeah.
It feels like you need to be more intentional if you're going to switch around different corners of music. So yeah, you know, it's interesting because I haven't done that many like back-to-backs in those types of contexts because we don't get that many opportunities. But I have had a couple of great ones. I think the keys to like a good back-to-back. Well, I don't know, man. It's weird. Like, I had a really interesting one that I thought the person was gonna hate it, and the person actually didn't mind it.
What was this?
Shiba-san.
Okay.
We played back-to-back at a festival in Louisiana, in New Orleans. It's like the big rave festival.
Yeah.
I forget what it's called, but
is that Ooby Dooby one?
No, that's in Texas, I think.
That's
but
the worst
it's
festival
like
name
that.
ever.
It's got like a similar sort of name. I just can't even remember right now. But dude, this is what was so funny. This is like right as I was about to release my first like singer-songwriter album. And so I bought like my like microphone and like my like Daft Punk style vocal effects. And, you know, Shiba starts out playing like, you know, house bangers. Crowd is loving it. I play a couple, and then I ask him mid-set, I was like, hey, dude, can I hop on the mic and start singing? and it went from, we played probably like, you know, 30, 40 minutes of him playing a banger, and then me playing like a song where I'm singing and it's kind of chill. And
I love that.
Like, and I was like, oh my God. And you know, dude, Shiba-san, like, he is a reserved person, especially, you know, if he's meeting someone new. And so I was like, he hates this. He's never going to talk to me again. But I think he enjoyed it for some reason. Like, I was so surprised.
I think a lot of people think with Shiba, like, that he's kind of like just into making bangers and playing bangers and stuff like that. And I think realistically, he's this insane musician that no one really knows how good he actually is. Like, I was talking to him the other day, and has done the whole lockdown was play the piano and play the trumpet. Like, he plays trumpet. He plays the trumpet. Yeah. And there's like a trumpet shop in Bristol, like about 40 minutes away from me. And I don't know how it came up, but he was like, dude, this is in Bristol. I was like, yeah, I know. I like go past it all the time. He's like, dude, this is like the best trumpet shop in the world. And I'm like, this is fucking wild. Like, I didn't know you. But then you go back. I know he doesn't like talking about it, and probably he's going to kill me, but he used to be one of the biggest hip hop DJs in France, or he was the biggest hip hop DJ in France.
Right. Crazy.
So
You've pierced the shell of Shiba-san more so than I have. But there was like a moment where it's like, because he's very quiet.
Yeah.
At least like for someone who like me, I guess. And you know, get that moment where he's like, that's like me being like, dude, that was the best thing ever. Like
loved
the
it.
the the communication it's hilarious.
Yeah, because his English wasn't the best before he moved to America full time. His English wasn't the best as well, so the communication was always like one word answers and like facial expressions.
Yeah, but it's like everything, you know, every little gesture
is a win.
Of kindness is a win. Dude, here's a question for you.
Hit me with it.
I have an answer for this that came to mind. What was the biggest like high stakes DJ set that you gave the least amount of fucks? Like, and just sort of like, this could be a disaster, but I don't even fucking care. Does anything come to mind?
I think there's been a few, but one of Coachella when I did the Do Lab.
No way.
And it wasn't because I didn't care. It was when me and MK did back to back at Do Lab, and I played Do Lab the year before and was like literally shitting my pants walking on stage because it was my first time playing Do Lab. I didn't know what to expect, like didn't have a clue, and was like, it was amazing. It was like such a great feeling. So going on to the stage a second time with MK, first of all, the funniest thing is because I'm short and he's so tall. Well, I'm so short and he's so tall.
He's so tall.
We had to get like a step so that I could stand on the step, and then the step wouldn't cover his side of the decks, and then we looked like the same height, which was wild because I've never been that tall in my life. And we're so different on music styles, but we're really good mates. So we were just like, we tried to plan something. And I was at his house like a couple of days before, and we're like, we should plan something because this is going to go horribly wrong. And then realistically, we planned a set and then didn't stick to it at all. And just rolled with it. And it was all over the place because, of course, it's MK and Will Clarke. Like those sounds realistically don't go together. But it worked, and that was one of them where I'm just like, we're just gonna have fun. Let's just fucking have the best time.
Dude, that is the key. That is inescapably the key, dude.
What about you?
And it's funny, by the way, that you mentioned it was a back-to-back.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, the one that came to my mind was also back-to-back, given that topic of conversation. And it's weird. Pretty crazy, interesting little weekend I had. This is the fall of 2019. So I guess, yeah, it's kind of like the last like full crazy tour before lockdown. I had this weekend with J-Flip, and it was pretty interesting because, yeah, I had had the show that I'd given the least amount of fucks ever in my life, where I played in Boston, and it was exactly this is the same stretch of Dirty Bird as like Dirty Bird Camp Out, the story of like playing the worst, craziest pop music and IDM and experimental stuff. And I got the most backlash I've ever gotten at a show playing solo in Boston. I played Who Let the Dogs Out, the original version. People hated it. I played Shipping Off to Boston. I don't know if you know that song.
I don't know that song.
Okay, so it's when I was in college. This is so embarrassing. I was in a fraternity, and I was like the worst fit because I don't drink and I'm kind of awkward at parties. But what the frat bros would do is they would play this song and they would mosh. Can I cue it up real quick and play it over Spotify, Shipping Off to Boston, because I think who's it by?
We need the context.
Live audience. Shipping off to, it's by like the debt here we go. I'm shipping up to Boston. See, I don't even know the name of the song. Okay.
Did you just pick this track because it just had the word Boston in?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh yeah. Can you enable screen sharing? I'll be able to share my audio.
How do I do that?
Next to where it says screen sharing on your end, there's an arrow.
Multiple participants can share.
Perfect.
Oh, you know what? Do you want me to
Okay,
just put it up?
here, yo, got it. Boom. So this is the song.
Oh yeah, I know this. I know this. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and it
That's
goes,
been in
"Shipping
loads
off
of
to
films.
Boston."
Yeah.
So, yeah, dude, I played that. And yeah, so in college, all the frat bros, when there'd be like not a party, it'd be just guys. Everyone would get really drunk and play that song and have a mosh pit. And it's like it's not like 3 guys to do this, it'd be like 50, 60 dudes. And they would be having more fun than when there was an actual party. It was like their favorite thing to do.
Did you get involved? Did you get involved?
No, dude, I'm like a delicate, dainty musician. You know, like I would have, you know, like if you're a tough guy, like you have like a good athletic build. I know you played like sports when you're younger. Like you could probably hang. Me, I would get like bumps and go like flying into a wall and would be out of the season, out for the season, you know.
So
But anyway,
Boston wasn't loving it.
Dude, I got like all these messages because I think Boston people, they're very honest, which I think is a great quality, and they don't put up with shit. Like they're kind of that East Coast, like fuck you. And so I got a lot of hate. That was the most hate mail I ever got, like messages, comments.
Really?
Like a year later, I would like do a post on social media and someone from Boston be like don't ever come back to Boston. But it's, you know, but I think that's, yeah, I don't know. I just like went in and I actually had a lot of fun that night. And it was so crazy because in my head, it was one of those sets where I was like, dude, I think I kind of killed it tonight. You know, so.
Yeah, but was it like 5 people saying they didn't have fun, or was it like a lot of people saying they didn't have fun?
It was like a lot of people, but probably 5 who messaged me.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
like, but that feels like a lot when you're on Instagram. Like, I don't know. I'm sensitive to haters.
Yeah.
Please don't. Please be nice to people on the internet.
I agree. I agree, man.
But I don't know. Anyways, the story, it's that was me kind of like just being like no fucks, but having that experience, I think like the following weekend, it's kind of like it was very reaffirming to just like explore the outer limits of my comfort zone as a DJ, being like, okay, well, what if I truly gave no fucks and was as authentic as humanly possible to my own detriment? And you know, I think when you get that backlash, that's the price you pay. And doing that, I was like, you know what? I'm still here, baby. And there were people who enjoyed that night. And so I'm like, you know what? Well, what's the point of all this stuff? Like, if there's 5 people who message around Instagram who hate it, that's fine. But there's 5 people or 1 person who was like, dude, you spoke to my soul playing Who Let the Dogs Out.
Exactly.
Then, you know, I'd rather play for that 1 person than for the 5, you know, like 6 people. You know, like
it's tough because I love the fact that you just doubled down and just were like, fuck it. I haven't ever done that, but I guess I don't have Who Let the Dogs Out on my USB stick, and I actually love the fact that you put Who Let the Dogs Out on your USB stick. So I think, first of all, how the hell did you, where were you when you were like, I need to put Who Let the Dogs Out on your USB stick? On my USB.
It's embarrassing because I went years without it. But yeah, I mean, here's the thing about DJing, like it, you know, it's all based on the music you're kind of listening to in the moment and stuff. Cause I don't know. I think in the years where I haven't been digging in more like eclectic directions, then this stuff really isn't that much of an issue. But with the Who Let the Dogs Out thing, I mean, it goes back to my homies again. Like, I think I don't know who started it, but we just all really began embodying this idea of like pushing the envelope in both directions, both in terms of cheesy pop stuff and experimental stuff. And you know, I mean, I think I was interested in doing this stuff a little bit when I started, like, you know, Fantastic Voyage.
Yeah.
But it just got turned. It just the like intensity just has gotten turned up and up to the point of no return.
Yeah, I love that. Have you ever had like pushback from a promoter on like what you're playing?
Oh yeah. Well, dude, I had a very funny experience in the UK where I played. It wasn't like a very legit show. It was like a small bottle service club.
Yeah.
Like, you know, 50 people in the room, like very exclusive. The promoter wasn't allowed into the venue because he wasn't wearing the right shoes, kind of thing.
Wow. Where was it?
It was on the West End. So
okay.
it's like, it was like not a cool club. It was like secret kind of show. And I started playing. It was so funny because they wanted me to play like melodic house and techno.
Yeah.
And I started playing like 140 BPM trap and techno. It's like, you know, old Adam Bayer and new, you know, D Dan and like Adone, and you know, there's like all this amazing old techno and new techno that's like in the 140s, 150s, which is perfect because a lot of trap music is at that BPM.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't I play that?
Of course you would.
It was very funny because the promoter kept on saying 126 as like the BPM that I must play at, and it just kept on going up. And they kept on threatening to kick me off the decks, and the crowd was just going crazy. Like girls were handing me drinks, and I would just hand them to the promoter. I'd be like, "Dude, they're into it." But what ended up happening was like one of my really good friends who I was staying with in London, like they kept on bullying my friend.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, this. And like I think I probably got kicked off maybe like 15 minutes early.
No, that's okay.
But yeah, so it's like, I like to think that I just, you know, seeded the music to the next DJ early as a, you know, toss of a bone.
I had a promoter once. I was playing a show. I'm not going to mention the city. And I was playing an all night party, all night long. And I was playing, when I'm playing all night long, I usually play like Burial and kind of like really like experimental stuff at the beginning before anyone's there, and maybe like a few people turn up. And then I start kind of playing like some liquid drum and bass. And then once that's over, I kind of go back into like, and kind of build the night up. Generally people have turned up then and like the night's going. But I was playing drum and bass at this party, and my manager came up to me and was like, the owner of the club is like mad that you're playing drum and bass. And I'm like, why? And he's like, well, he's got some bottle service customers. Like, we'd sold the club night out already. It was sold out. He's got some bottle service people that came in and don't like drum and bass. And I was like, fuck it, I'm playing more drum and bass then. This is every reason why to play drum and bass, because I do not want somebody to control what I'm playing. Like, fuck you. You book me.
Can I guess the club and city in the chat without telling anyone?
Let me go for it.
Tell me if I'm right or wrong.
No, but you're very close.
Classic.
Yeah.
Classic.
The first one, I played drum and bass and they loved it.
Oh, really? That's fucking dope.
Loved it.
No kidding. Huh, you know, just depends who buys the table, I guess.
Yeah.
That is so funny.
It was that guy. You know who,
Dude,
you
I know who you're talking about. That's funny.
Sorry, everybody.
Classic.
But I like it. I think there has to be a level of the DJ actually pushing, giving the crowd what they want, but also giving them what they want but didn't know they wanted.
Yeah. That's beautifully put. You know, I mean, I think that's my favorite part of DJing. You can literally trick people to enjoy music that they wouldn't have enjoyed otherwise, which is where I completely started. Because when I was in high school, I was into electronic music, and no one, generally in LA at that time was into it. Everyone wanted hip hop. I also had this extra level of kind of challenge being a high school DJ, because my high school was not a big like party school.
Yeah.
Everyone smoked weed and would go to a party and just like sit on the couch.
Yeah.
Or like stand around and so I had to get these like awkward private school like stoner kids comfortable to dance. And
I can only imagine, especially in America, I can only imagine this.
Yeah, in LA, so like people are like too cool to dance,
super cool, kids.
Type of thing.
Yeah.
And I think I just, my like introduction to like DJing in front of people outside of my bedroom was like this weird journey, because what I figured out this sort of like flow, kind of like you described, from burial to drum and bass, as your kind of like trajectory for yourself. For this context, I would begin with my friend Sam playing chill hip hop stuff. Like that's, we were into a lot of the funky, like Tribe Called Quest, old Biggie stuff, a lot of the 90s hip hop shit, like De La Soul. But then also like People Under the Stairs, Jay Dilla, because all that stuff is very funky, but it's also slow and relaxed. And then from there, it's a very easy segue into like funk and disco, especially because like funk, all this, that's where all the beats are being sampled from, like all the drum grooves. And so but like proper funk music, like across the board, will like help bring the energy up. And then you're into disco because you're just working those BPMs like straight up. And then from disco, you can sneak in the house music. And dude, it's, once you're there, it's like you're home free. And I think those are some of the most satisfying moments I ever had, with just being up against all odds, getting people to dance, period. And then dance to like underground dance music. Man, it's like the best feeling.
Yeah,
it is the best feeling.
It is. And I think that's the thing, is like, it's a challenge, isn't it? It's like seeing a crowd and you're like, this is such hard work. And you're like, but you just keep going and keep going and keep going. And then eventually there's one record that just cracks them. And you're like, okay, I've got them. Now they're mine.
Dude, that is an amazing feeling. Yeah, it's weird. I think what I just described, trying to experience that in like an hour set at a festival is like nearly impossible. It's like,
do you even try?
I don't know, man. I haven't played a festival in a long time, but the last festival set I did was one of my favorites. I did Cross. It was like the last
Cross
show
is great.
possible.
Cross is great.
Dude, yeah, it was like, I played Sunday night, last set on the small stage, and it was, it's like, that was like the last show before COVID.
It's a pretty good show.
Like, it's, dude, insane, man. And I feel like I think that was like another culminating experience. It was like a year after the Boston debacle. Yeah. And it was kind of like the ultimate arrival point of like, I called the set, like how like sometimes you'll get like a review of your set in like a blog or something. Mm-hmm. So someone like said something nice about me, but I took a screenshot of the headline, which was like, Justin did okay. Justin did a nice set. Justin did not.
Justin played Who Let the Dogs Out in Boston.
Right. He avoided disaster. No, but I took a screenshot of the headline and then typed out on Instagram like my own description of my performance, calling it like Bar Mitzvah Berghain, because I was juxtaposing like a lot of cheesy pop music with like a lot of like gnarly techno stuff. Yeah. And it was just it went really well. But it's funny. We went on this long tangent, but you know how you were talking about your back-to-back with MK as one where you really gave no fucks? Yeah. the answer that I have that I think is like my favorite was a B2B where so J Flip, he was going through this interesting time where he, and I hope it's okay that I mention this, but I think it's a really cool story and pretty inspiring one, where she was having a little bit of a disconnection between the music she thought she was supposed to play and the music that she wanted to play.
Yeah.
And she mentioned that she was having some shows that she wasn't that fulfilled with because she was caught up in that, you know, disconnection, I guess, you know, and so, you know, off the heels of like the Boston show, Jess and I had a show together, and we ended up going back to back, and I was like, yo, dude, like, let's play whatever you want.
Yeah.
And I was like, any BPM, and we got to like, you know, 140, 150. I was like, yeah, Jess, like, see, I know you
got it in you.
and it's like, and she was like, dude, that was so much fun. And she was like, I got to play some of the songs I really wanted. The next night we played, or it was the next day, we played together on a big festival in Atlanta, and like it was like a proper rave, like EDM, you know, it was in a race car track, speedway type of thing.
Hot as shit.
Yeah, and I was like, yo, dude, do you want to combine sets and do the same thing? And she said yes, and we played full on weird for like a huge crowd, and like it's one of those things where like when the crowd is so big, for me, I can't tell if people like it or not because I don't have good vision. And so I don't know how well it went or how well it didn't go, but I think it went pretty well.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It was a really exhilarating feeling to have this sort of mindset of not giving a fuck and to push another DJ who's sick to do the same, and for it to then be like, oh my God, you know, the whole time Jess is playing these songs, I'm like, what is this? What is this? Yeah. And it's just like, I don't know, man. I mean, I think a lot of people in underground house music over the past couple of years have had similar sorts of issues emotionally with how to navigate the ecosystem because it's gotten so much bigger, and it's like hardly, I mean, it's just it's just grown a lot, which is super positive. But I think whenever things get bigger in music, the way that you respond to expectations, I think, can be tricky, you know? And I think this is my belief. I think most of it can be in your head,
100%.
more so than in reality. And I think, dude, for me, when I compromise myself, bad things start happening. I start getting anxiety. I start not having fun.
Yeah.
I start like then my quality goes down. Yeah. Then I get more anxiety. Then I have less fun. Then the quality goes down even more. Then I don't want to do it. Yeah. Then I start canceling tours. And then I, you know, I like unplug. Over. And that's actually happened to me. And on the flip side, I feel like when you take those steps of like courageousness to like be yourself, even when you think it might be a disaster, that is where, for me, I will have way more fun.
Yeah.
When I'm having more fun, the quality might be better, but also I don't care what the outcome is as much because I'm just having fun. And then that is like a positive upward feedback cycle. So that's my experience. And I definitely am someone who pushes these principles to an extreme.
Yeah.
But fuck it. Why not?
Well, I think it's amazing because it's kind of shown in your artist kind of journey as who you are as a person, but also like what you put out. When I first kind of heard you, I think it was Rain Dance EP on Dirty Bird, with Hit It. Like that record was just unbelievable, man. And where you've gone from being part of like the Dirty Bird crew and then kind of doing your own imprint and really kind of just making music that you love, that you want to be part of it. And I can really feel that you're releasing music that I don't want to speak for yourself. Tell me if this is how it is, but this is how it feels for me as like a consumer of your music, is that beforehand it was like you wanted people to enjoy it, and meant the world. It meant everything that people enjoyed your music. Now it feels like you're just releasing music that you absolutely love releasing yourself.
You know, I would say like my journey, I would say like, first of all, thank you for the kind words,
No
dude.
worries.
That fires me up. Also, before I start rambling, dude, it's so crazy, dude. The first song of yours that I ever heard was in 2013, and it was the song on there's a small record label called No Brainer.
Yeah.
And
Classic.
and I checked this last night because I wanted to like I hadn't heard the song in a very long time, but I remember liking it back then. And
What song was it?
it's called Move. Hold on. I'm playing up. I got it. Okay, so the song is called Move Like That.
I can't even remember that record.
Dude, and here's the funniest thing, dude. Check this out, because I feel like in the back of my head I knew this, but
Oh,
dude,
I remember that.
Dude, where are you? Move Like That? Dude, we're on the same compilation.
Oh shit!
Back in 2013.
That's crazy. And Wood Holly. Is Kill Frenzy on there as well? Scroll down.
Probably.
Oh no, it's Kill Light.
But Kill Frenzy, I think, had released some music on this label. Dude, Ian Pooley's there.
Yeah.
Purple Disco Machine.
Damn.
Yeah, dude. Pretty wild. But so, dude, for me, I was always I don't know, man. I think I had the experience. My first year of making music professionally was when I kind of learned these principles.
Yeah.
Because I got a song signed to Dirty Bird when I was 18 and just starting college. And it was the biggest dream come true.
Yeah.
It was like, holy shit, this is 2011.
Yeah.
Coming up on 10 years.
That's mad.
And I was like, this is insane. This is the coolest thing of all time. I now had Claude Von-Stroke's email.
Yeah.
And I started sending him a demo a week. And when I began, see, I was never focused on the crowd. I was always just like focused on being a nerd. I was like, I love this music. I want to learn how to make house music. I want to learn how to make this, that, etc. And so, yeah, you know, I think when I had Claude Von-Stroke's email, I just started spamming him with music every week. And it was like a descent into chaos because he hated everything. And, you know, I think it was like I went on this journey of like, it took me 8 months to get a second song signed to Dirty Bird. Mm-hmm. And what had happened, a couple things. One, it was a good time of me like getting more consistent at like production, mixing in particular, I think was one of the biggest things. And but a couple big things that I learned were I was trying to make music that I thought would be good for Dirty Bird.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay? Which, you know, is kind of what you were speaking to a little bit perhaps, but it wasn't like Dirty Bird wasn't popular.
Yeah.
Like it was like no one knew about Dirty Bird in America, like in college. Like all of my college friends were like, this is boring. Where's the drop? You know? So yeah, it was very much like, no one likes this, but my favorite DJ. So it's like there was nothing about fans and stuff. It was way too actually underground. 2011 in the US.
That was when they were big in Europe.
Yeah. They were very cool in Europe. Yeah. Very cool in Europe. Julio Bashmore and stuff. Yeah. But dude, here were the things. It was like I learned that I just needed to allow myself to have fun making music. And a lot of the stuff that I was really inspired by, besides Dirty Bird, was like a lot of deep house stuff. I was a real big fan of like Jimpster and Free Range. I was really into Jamie Jones, Lee Foss, Hot Creation stuff when they were doing like funky deep house stuff, like, you know, lots of melodies and funky bass lines.
Things like that.
Yeah, exactly. There was a lot of stuff that I was inspired by that that was not related to Dirty Bird at all. And I started finally allowing myself to just make whatever I wanted, which was still pretty much all house music at the time. And, you know, then there were those songs that were like deep house songs with like diva vocals that I didn't realize this, but it was like the actual antithesis to Dirty Bird. Like Dirty Bird was started in San Francisco, almost in reaction to like Miguel Miggs and like sexy deep house stuff, which I liked. And so Claude Von Stroke absolutely hated those songs. But it's interesting because the second song that I ever released in Dirty Bird was actually a juxtaposition of like a lot of deep house shit and like Dirty Bird stuff. And I'll play it for you. Like, it's because you can hear it. Like, so here's like the deep house section. But
it's still Dirty Bird. That's what I love about. I
here's
actually
like the point of intersection, because that shit, it's inspired. I didn't realize it, but I was inspired by like Dirty Bird, which a lot of Dirty Bird is inspired by drum and bass.
Yeah.
And drum and bass is there is a lot of inspiration you can draw upon for both like gnarly shit and beautiful, like deep, you talk about liquid drum and bass. But this song also has the wubs, like, like, okay, so it has like the big bass line. So I like threw it all in the blender. And I think actually my biggest pitfalls over the course of my career, when I was like really struggling with like the creative side of making music, was not when I was focused on.
What year was that you were struggling?
It just went in waves, but I think within the first 5 years of my career, first 4 really, while I was in college, it was like there were some moments where it was struggle time, like year 1, and then maybe like year 3 was like another period of struggle. I was a little bit more isolated. Like I moved out of like a bigger like social environment into like an apartment with one person, and I think that kind of like got in my head a little bit, because the first year I was making music in a dorm, and second year I was making music in a frat house. And the aspect of people being around was very cool to me, because people would ignore me. I was like the weird guy making music, and then something would happen on the song, and all of a sudden people would poke their heads in and be like, yo, what is this? And I'd be like, it's me.
Is that
And I don't know, I liked that ability to have like people
critics
around me.
It's critics.
Just like, listen, not even as critics, because like everyone hated house music, so it was like they were all critics, but it was more so like, I don't know, I just tuned out. I assumed, the assumption was no one was going to like it, but if I did get some positive feedback, that was useful. But back to the struggle period of like year 3 for me, to be very reductive about it, but it's not obviously so concrete. But when I would get caught up in, I had this period of time where I started trying to be more serious. And I wanted to try making techno, which I'd never made before. And my mindset was just like, just wasn't fun. Like it was like me being like alone, wearing all black. I was in a long distance relationship on Zoom, like on Skype at the time. Like she had moved, and I think that kind of sums up, the sort of mindset that I was in. So it was obviously like a confluence of different factors, but I put out this EP on Dirty Bird that was like trying to be techno, and it was the EP before the one you liked. And it's funny because like I think
which
it was
one was
actually
it?
the only.
Let's give us a play, because I might know it.
It's called Instincts. And it's kind of funny because some people liked it. Like it was actually my only EP to get like maybe not my only, but maybe my first EP that got a write-up in DJ Mag. So like someone liked it, but I don't know. It didn't feel, it was like, I don't know. It was like, to me, the song, there's still cool things about them, but I think I wasn't allowing myself to have fun. And it's funny because I think making techno, for me, it took a couple of years to figure out. Like, I think I only finally made a techno song that I was like, this feels like authentic and proper, maybe like a couple of years ago. The stuff I put out on Ovum last year is the music I'm actually talking about.
It was great, that EP. I loved it.
Oh, yeah, dude, I'm hyped you heard it.
I love that.
Dude. But yeah, man, I don't know. I think I think it doesn't matter what kind of music I make. Mindset is everything for me. If I'm not having fun, it all can go south, and that can happen on a track where I'm not having fun. and then I have to go back to an older version
Yeah.
before I went on that part of my mindset started drifting, and then I can salvage a song sometimes. That's kind of maybe a bit of the story for the song that I just put out yesterday, where
the Rumors
it took me
record.
2
I love
years.
it. 2 years.
Yeah.
Jeez, man.
Yeah.
That's wild. It's a great record. I was just listening to it beforehand.
Dude, oh, thank you.
And this is the thing that I kind of like really want to like get out of this, and this is just me being completely selfish, because you are releasing fucking anything, and how does that on a business side of things, right? Because we're talking business as well. We're in the music business. How do you feel that fits the business side of this industry?
Dude, well, I'm hyped that you opened the door on this conversation, because, and I love how you worded that, you're like selfishly, because, dude, I mean, there's so much that this is a pretty interesting conversation, just like, because I feel like we are approaching things from very different perspectives.
Yeah.
And there's a lot that I see you doing that I'm like, damn, Will is killing it and has it all figured out. And it's interesting because like I'm gonna flip the
Yeah.
the turntables are turn the turntables. Oh, how the turntables. Shout out The Office. But yeah, it's just interesting because I think before I dive in, I just want to say like, I think any approach can work. You're a beautiful example of someone who I think like, from my perspective, does the opposite, where like, I think there's a lot of strategy. I see your career and, I can see these different sort of like almost chapters of like you exploring different things and kind of like they seem to get buttoned up and then you move on in a way that's like very easy to process as a consumer, which I think is kind of a cool thing because I think the big thing that you are avoiding, which is great, is people will come to your show and not be horribly disappointed because they were expecting this and get that. So that's like, which I think is really cool because I will just paint you the picture as poorly as possible up front. I think like the most extreme thing is there are people who will message me saying, Justin, I thought I was going to see a band play and it was a fucking DJ set. And then the opposite. I will get the opposite too. Justin, I thought you were going to be DJing house music and you were singing and there were guitars. So yeah, like, yes, that is what you sign up for. Disappointment from people. And, I think, I think exploring live music and singing is probably the extreme of that. Cause like when there's like live drums and guitars instead of like synth bass lines and shit. And it's like you're preparing yourself for a lot of disappointed fans. But
how does that feel though?
I approached it the same way I approached DJing. Where I was like, okay, so as a DJ, I can, yes, sometimes I'm like chaos, crazy person, but there's other times where it'll be more, like in high school when I was going to trick people into dancing to house music. So I pretty much used the same philosophy
but reverse
and frameworks for sneaking the live music into it. That's how it began. Whereas I made my first song with friends who were singing and playing guitar and would play it in my DJ sets once I got the crowd going. And then that one song turned into 5 songs. And then there was a point where I wanted to start singing and I wanted to have a drummer and I wanted to turn off the CDJs. I didn't want the CDJs because initially it was like karaoke. It was like play a track, guitar and singing on top, which is something that a lot of DJs do. But for me, it felt a little inauthentic and I wanted to like really get that jam experience. So dude, what started happening was I would play a DJ set and then build it up into a moment where I turned off the turntables. The drums were set up, tucked in the corner, guitar amp, microphone, bass, etc. And that's how I would sneak it in. And then that chunk from live music began as like 1 song or 2 songs, and then grew and grew until it was like 30 minutes. And then it ultimately grew to the point where it could be a full set. So that was my experience. But to answer your actual question more directly, I think I'm still learning how to do it better. I'm not like, I think, I'm not doing it as well as
Yeah.
as efficiently and effectively as I could, but I'm having the most fun, so I don't really care. And that's why I'm here to learn about you,
Yeah.
because I can learn how to like maybe get a little bit more strategic. But
I think we were learning from each other because you're having fun, and don't get me wrong, like I'm having fun, but there's been a lot of times where I'm not having fun, and I talk about that quite openly. For me, when I'm not having fun is when I have so many expectations of myself.
Yes.
And you're just like releasing, like, this is no word of a lie. Like, releasing music isn't fun for me anymore, which is weird to say.
Will, I want to just give you a big old hug, dude.
No, that's not, and that's not in like, that's not due to anyone. That's purely what I do in my own head. If you know
That's
what
why
I mean.
you need a hug, dude.
It's like
there's not out there someone else that I need to give a hug so that they're nice to you. It's you, dude. It's all you.
It's just like, it's more so like, I don't know. I put so much, my expectations are so high every time I release a record. And I think it's purely because I think personally, without sounding arrogant and kind of big-headed, is like the music that I'm releasing now, I personally feel like is the best music. I've put the most amount of time into that music. And when your music doesn't get recognized by a few curators of playlists, and it doesn't get the like kind of the love that you feel that it should be, and your music should never get the love that it should, if you know what I mean. There's no such thing, but it's just it's just so frustrating to me.
So, dude, the expectations, comparing one song to the next, comparing one artist to the next,
that's the worst.
None of these things are good for being creative and having fun. I think these are the trappings of success that like we all need to be conscientious of. The trappings of taking things seriously, which can happen even if success isn't there and can debilitate people. These are all really powerful forces. I want to hear more about your journey, but I'll tell you, like with me, dude, most of my songs don't get on playlists. Most of my songs don't get all of the things that you think you need to get to achieve success. Do they still do well? Sometimes very much so. What I see is like on Spotify, for instance, because I know that's something that you're probably thinking about when you talk about curators. There's a really cool idea about not how your song does in week 1, but week 51. It's this idea of like, do people actually continue to listen to your music and stuff like that? But bro, when I put out techno stuff, no one's gonna listen to that shit on Spotify. Like, and why would you? No. It's like, I don't know, man. I think I don't know, man, because like, who knows? Like, with the strategic approach, maybe when touring reopens, like you're gonna be so well positioned to like be a headline festival superstar, which I will probably not.
You'll turn up with Who Let the Dogs Out and your guitar. But I love that. No, for me, it's like I a lot of it is very strategic. A lot of it, but
walk me through it, dude. Tell me if you're comfortable talking about.
Yeah, like, man. I will. I'll answer whatever you kind of want to know, and because I don't like, I'm learning from you a lot more so.
And I just want to say, like, dude, huge fan of what you're doing with your label and this new chapter of music. Like, you sent me Hallelujah maybe a year before it came out, and I played it nonstop, and I was like, damn, dude. And I also want to say, like, for me, when I hear that sort of stuff, I feel like the risks that you've taken musically on the new stuff, to me that sounds like you've been having fun.
Yeah.
Like exploring. I hear like dub techno on Hallelujah, and I hear like, nostalgic trance elements and like some of the other songs you put out. There's like the MK collab too. Like he's got his touch. So the song you just put out, I hear like some like lo-fi house meets melodic. It's like you're really, to me, I feel like on paper musically it seems like you're having fun.
I'm loving making music. absolutely loving making music. I'm just not really enjoying the releasing process.
It's weird because I feel like your shit, that's so crazy to me because I've been like, following your journey as a fan.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, good for Will. His shit is popping off. Like, it's crazy, by the way. Like, the impact, like, just like looking at Spotify alone, because I, did the whole, like, gonna chat with Will, gonna check up on, the music and how it's going. And dude, it's like, it's going phenomenally well. And so I'm very surprised to hear that you are grappling with these things because I'm like, and it's the classic thing. It's like you see things going well for someone and you assume that they're like on top of the world.
Yeah.
And talk to me. What is going on?
So for me, what it is that you achieve one thing and it does really well. Like the first 2 releases on my label. Well, all of my releases have done well on my label. And that's the thing. If on paper, if I go, what, like they if let's say 2 years ago I would be in the situation that I'm at, but I'm very much the person that I just always want to better. Like I always want to kind of achieve more, and it's not, for me it's not about, for me it's just always continuing to grow and do better than the last thing that I did put out, if you know what I mean. And that's the thing that I struggle with the most, really.
So here's my advice. You should make an EP that you think will be received horribly and put it out. You can put it out on my label and hope that it gets 100 plays.
Yeah.
And pretty much try and realize the worst case scenario, and you will immediately be free from like the chains that you think are, I don't know. So, and I like, that's like my suggestion for how to like just snap out of this mindset is to like confront all of the fears head on in the most extreme
But yeah, well, I think the thing that I'm kind of doing now is that I'm putting the pressure on myself because I'm self-releasing, because I'm putting out on my own label, and that is the only real reason. When I really like, I've got an EP coming out on Denson Pika's label next Friday.
Sick.
And like I know that Spotify, like no one's gonna want to listen to that on Spotify. It's hard as fuck, like super hard, and I don't expect anything to happen of that, if you know what I mean. I really like, I'm purely just putting that out because I love putting that music out. But it's for me when I'm self-releasing, I put so much pressure on myself.
But I mean, I guess to me that makes a little bit of sense given that if you're self-releasing it, you're in charge of your label. I'm curious, like, can you talk a little bit more tangibly about how you've, dude, I mean, because I think first, before talking about like how to improve your mindset, it's worth giving you some fucking huge props on what you've been able to achieve. Like, and I'm curious, can you talk a little bit about, we need to acknowledge that you have been performing 2 roles, you're label man and artist. And so let's disassociate these 2 people and talk to like label Will Clarke man who should want to do better and better. That's like, that is what you are doing as a label. You want to get the music out there. That's like that is the job. That is the service. It's a beautiful thing to get a great song heard by people, whether it's your own or by another artist. So let's just talk about that if you're down. Like, how, can you talk about what have been the keys to success with your label, whether it's like distribution or like help from management? Because often it takes a village, even if it's your own label.
Well, that is it. That is the village. So when I took on, when I started working with my manager, a guy called Ryan, we started working together 2019, I believe. And literally we set a load of goals out from day one. Like we spoke for months. I had like a really shit time with management. We spoke loads before I took him on, because I didn't want to just go into a management for like no reason, if you know what I mean. I don't see the point in having a manager just to have a manager. And we just built up this cool relationship. And so when we started working together, we kind of set a list of goals of what we want to achieve, and we still do that every year. And one of them was to get a label, but I didn't want to just release start a record label without the right team around me. So it was just a year of just planning on this record label, really, and everything from branding to a name to like the name took me about 6 months to work out, and then the branding was probably another 4 months, and then having to start for the first year of the label, we had a label manager in the UK, a guy called Nick Harris, and then we had a team in Australia, and we had a team in America that were kind of looking after individual kind of parts of the record label in that territory. And then we, on top of the label manager, we also had a team in Europe. And I just wanted to make sure that this record label starts with everyone singing from the same song sheet, but also everyone wanting to kind of, everyone in their specific territories and their experts in the specific territories to kind of make sure that the records do the best they possibly can do, really. I'm just somebody that writes music and plays it, and I can kind of manage that, everyone, but I'm not an expert at distribution. I'm not an expert at running a record label, so why would I try and do that? Like, I'd rather get somebody else to do that for me that's better at that for me.
So I think here's your problem right here is your unwillingness to acknowledge that you are running a label. Because, and you're saying, I'm just a guy who makes music. You're fucking not. and that's, I think that's a cool thing, you know,
Yeah.
But here's here's my biggest piece of advice. What you need to do, because this idea of wanting to follow up your next release on the label with success and do the best job possible is kind of part of running a label.
Yeah, exactly.
What we need to establish for you is that there are these two different personalities.
Yeah.
There's Will Clarke, the artist, and Mr. Clarke, the label guy. And you need to, what you do not want to happen is you do not want the wrong person in the wrong chair at the wrong time, you know? And so.
Oh, 100%. Have you had that with your label?
Well, my label's scrappy. So like, you know, we haven't had like, we haven't, like, you've done a much better job on running a record label than I have. It's in terms of like, real quick, when you talk about all these different teams, what are you talking about? Like, are these like different distributors? Are these companies?
Distributors, licensing, like people, like other labels that license. So I have a licensing deal. Actually, now it's worldwide, apart from Australia. So I have a company called Good Company that license all we have is now, and they run everything worldwide. Beforehand, I have a license, a label called eclectic in Australia who license my stuff in Australia. So they're kind of in charge of everything in Australia and New Zealand.
Did you have this shit set up from day one with the first release? Wow.
I wasn't going to start a record label if I didn't.
Dude, because that's so legit, man. See, yeah, you have such a good, you know, this, when I talk strategy, like there's so much to it. And this is interesting for me to hear because I think, you know, yeah, let's dig in a little bit more and we'll wrap around to like how maybe we can get you to have more fun.
I'm having fun. It's just I just don't like the process of releasing music. And the only reason why I'm in that is because I know the real reason is because I want my records to be successful so everyone else is successful that's working with me. That's purely the reason. For me, I've never had this happen like in my career where I've got a team around me that I'm so happy with that I want to be successful so they earn more money. Like, I want to earn more money. So, and this isn't about money, but for like my manager, let's say, for instance, I want to be able to give him an insane life through what we do together. And
Is
at the
he
end of
struggling right now?
pardon?
Is he like?
No, he's
Is
cool.
he?
He's fine. He's absolutely fine.
So do you need to feel that pressure?
Yeah, because I think for me, how I work well under pressure.
But do you have fun? Because
I have fun when I'm writing music, but not when it gets released. But at the end of the day, when it gets released, there's nothing I can do. So like there was a release that I released last year that I didn't do as well as I thought it would do, and I spent like about a month just like, what the fuck do I do? And then my most recent release, Run, absolutely love it. It didn't get all the love from Spotify and from Radio 1, fine, but I genuinely love that record. So I'm like, fuck it. But there's still that pressure at the beginning. Like, this record has to do well. If it doesn't do well, then what have we got going? But you're right. The one thing is that I'm just like, no, I love the music. And if I absolutely believe in the music, 100%, then there's nothing else I can kind of argue with.
You know, it's interesting, man. I mean, I think here's just something that I feel like is worth mentioning. Like, when I think we're the most at risk of being destroyed by our own pressure and like all of that stuff, when we don't realize it. You know, like when we're not like being honest with ourselves in terms of like, this is the pressure I'm putting on myself. This is what I'm actually trying to do. You know, I mean, it's because I think I don't know, man. It's once you realize like, yo, I'm putting pressure because I need this number to be big. You know, and like, to me, it sounds like that's stuff that you're like, you know what, dude, I love this song. I don't care about these plays. You know, like, once you identify the problem, you will often disarm like 80 to 90% of its power.
100%.
When you truly realize it, because it's the shit that's nagging at you that you don't realize that's like, that will really fuck you up. And I don't know, man. Can you? Because I'm curious about genuinely trying to dig in on this with you, like, because you say like, dude, I've been talking about this all the time, like not having fun. Paint me the picture. What does it look like when you are the most succumbed by pressure and not having fun? Like, what is that moment? Give me paint the picture for me.
I think it's the highs and lows of being an artist, right? You know, I don't know. This might not be you. I don't know, but for most people that I've spoken to, you can have like the highest highs and the lowest lows in a day from being an artist. And for me, it's why do I do what I do? And I think that's what I forget why I do what I do sometimes. And I think it's just the case of that. It's so strange during this time as well, during coronavirus, because I talk about this a lot with my manager Ryan, and I'm just like, the only way we can see we're doing well now at this very moment in time, is if your record streams well, because there's no DJs playing. There's no DJs really giving feedback. There's no one playing your music. You can't play your music to crowds. So the only real way for you to be like, yeah, this record's doing really well, is to see those streaming numbers go up, or to see it go on playlists and then the streaming numbers go up, or people talk about how amazing it is and things like that. And social media is a little bit kind of wayward. Like, people follow you because they want to follow you. They don't follow you because they don't like you. I'd like to think anyway. Like, I'm sure there's some people that are like that. So the fact that everyone says on social media that they love your new record, it's like, well, you follow me, so I'd like to hope that you like my music because you follow me and you're kind of invested in it, right? So it kind of paints this like picture, this like glass tinted windows where you're like, that's not, it's true. Like it's great that they love the music, but then when it doesn't kind of move into streams or move into support on like certain playlists and things like that, I'm like, well, how can I know that if this record's doing well? But for me, it's when people discover you through your new music, and that's when I'm like, okay, this is moving.
So here, I'm gonna push some buttons and let me know if this is productive or not. So
this has turned into like you interviewing me.
Yeah, I warned you. I was like, Will, I'm gonna flip the script on you. Dude, so you know how I talked about like, there's like record label Will and then artist Will?
Yeah.
There's also manager Will.
Oh,
okay?
100%.
And like, I mean, you've self-managed yourself for a long time. Like, I have no doubt in my mind, like I'm sure your professional relationship with your manager is very collaborative. Because you're someone who's like very strategic and, I just think it's important to realize that there needs to be like a disconnect between manager Will and artist Will.
Oh, 100%.
I'm teaching like an artist, I've been doing like artist education stuff, teaching people how to make music and stuff. And what I always tell people is like, do not let your inner manager into the studio.
Yeah.
Like obviously, what I tell people is like, wear a different hat if you need to, like put on a collared shirt when you're doing your manager stuff, and then take off the button down and make music and have fun. But I think everything you just said in terms of gauging the success of a record is like manager Will talking.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
You have said nothing about like artist Will, and I will give you sort of like my framework for how I have been thinking about this stuff, because your comments are so well founded. There is no way to like really gauge stuff. There aren't the shows. You can't get that like connection with people. You're looking at comments. You don't know if they're authentic or not, so you're looking at numbers, which is great for your manager, but it is a dangerous, or not dangerous, but just like, it is a path that leads to nowhere, to be looking at numbers for what you are really in need of is like artistic fulfillment, to me, is what it sounds like. And numbers will never, ever, ever do it, because here's the thing about numbers. Pick a number, there's always a bigger one.
Always a bigger one. Always.
There's always a bigger one. So there's no satisfaction. And then what happens is whatever that biggest number was, then all of a sudden every number below it is now a smaller number.
Yeah, totally.
And so it's like every success just makes every not success more of a failure. So it's like, it is just, there is because no artist is ever just like this. And then do you ever really find pure satisfaction at any of these new milestones when 1,000 turns to 10, 100, 1,000,000, 1 billion?
No, it's not. It's always that what's next.
And that is the what's next is the job for your manager. That's great, because if there wasn't a what's next, you would quit and you would just like stop making music, which is an option, but like you make great music and I think people enjoy it. So like, I keep on going.
I totally agree. I think for me, I know I'm fully aware what I do. I'm in that situation because I'm the first, but my manager doesn't even say it. Like I'm the one that says it to my manager. My manager's not like, and it's always been the thing for me, and it's been like that since before I was writing music in my life before, if you know what I mean, and things like that. Like it's just something that I have to just accept that that's how I am.
but no, dude. See, and that's bullshit, dude. Like, because that's a part of who you are. But to me, it just sounds like there's another part of you that like might be there that we just need to develop a little bit more. That's there. I think that will provide a more like balanced foundation, because you need a bit of what you're talking about. If you didn't have that at all, it would be a disaster. But I think
I wouldn't be where I'm at. I honestly think like if I didn't put in the work that I put in now and that I have done in the past like few years, my career would have been over 100%.
And you know, I think here's the thing, like all of those motivations and those strategies, I think their prime directive is about allocating your energy in a smart way. So it's like, you know, working hard and working strategically so that you're getting the most bang for your effort. As long as you're disciplined in those areas, then like that's all that those things are useful for. You know, but you receive ultimately diminishing returns, especially when you start getting more successful. But here is like where I know you have this in you. It's just about reconnecting with it. It's like, you know, and I think it's easier to do when we're DJing because it's person. But the most powerful thing that I think I would encourage you to like think about and just build your self-awareness is that feeling of personal connection when you put out a song. When that one person sends you that nice heartfelt message, or you get that text message from your mom, or that one friend who you grew up with who's been listening to your music for 10 years, like could be like a number of those people. But, you know, it's like on Instagram, for instance, or like in your life, if you read 3 nice messages from people that you cared about, or spoke on the phone to someone who's like, man, I really loved that song. You know, like that will trump the billions of plays always.
Oh, always. Yeah.
And so I think like that is, I think
sorry to jump in with this record run. That's what's happened. That's why that's why it's kind of, for me, is like, I've enjoyed it so, because I've had like mates that don't even listen to house music, if you know what I mean. And you're just like, okay, it's not all that bad, if you know what I mean. It's not all that, but it is that disconnect. You're right. It's the disconnect from artist, label manager, and all of that, and kind of wanting more.
And you are also kind of like an ambitious dude who is also very humble, and, you know, you're well-spoken, and, you know, I think you just got to be, you know, I think being willing to say like, I am my own manager as well as Ryan or whatever, and I am running my label as well as with all the people who help, so that you can start creating a little bit of separation and begin removing power from some of these things that you thought are super important. They are important, but the degree to how powerful they are needs to be put in check.
They're not. You know? It's not important in the grand scheme of life. In this grand scheme of like, let's be honest, you're only as good as your last record. But if you're releasing 20 records a year, then you're kind of rolling with it. It doesn't really matter what happened to your last record at the end of the day. And I think for me, I think there's just a combination of lots of things, and not being around. I think the coronavirus shit, I've been cool the whole time, and then until it was releasing music, and I'm like, for me, I'm struggling with not playing the records, not kind of seeing that, so I doubled down on the numbers, like even more so.
Yeah, and dude, can't blame you for that, because like we don't have, it's like it requires more effort to get that personal connection back. I think for me, like, you know, I think for me, having a label has actually been a big source of it, because my label is not like, we don't have like fancy distributors across the world and stuff, but we have like, there are a couple, you know, like kids who reached out to me about internships, and then we have like a bunch of like really nice people, like a bunch of like my main PR person was like an intern, and like taught her how to like pitch to blogs and SoundCloud channels, and she now is amazing. And so we just have this kind of like, you know, for me, like we also work a lot of artists that are like brand new.
I love that.
And for some of these artists, it's like, dude, reaching 1,000 plays is so meaningful. And, you know, I mean, I think that, you know, I try, and it's very hard to do, but, you know, if I can at least be in contact with these artists and like sharing, reveling in the victories together. And, you know, I think the most meaningful thing that can happen in my label, I feel like, is when my like label manager or like the PR person will be like, oh, I love this song, I can't wait for it to come out. I'm like, yay! yay! You know, like I think that stuff, it's always the personal, you know, we as humans, we're not programmed to respond emotionally to numbers.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Like, we cannot even comprehend numbers. Like,
No.
like exponential growth is something that the human mind has no way of understanding, you know, and like the difference between, you know, 100 billion versus like, you know, 10 million, it's like those are both big numbers.
Yeah.
The difference between those numbers is
insane.
The same difference as like 10 million and like 0.01 or something. Like, you know, carry some zeros. But
yeah, I've got friends that are like extremely successful with numbers, like extremely successful overall. Like we all do, right? Like you, and it's interesting because a lot of them have exactly the same. Like my last record did 500 million streams, and my record before my new record did 10 million, and I'm like, dude, you still 10 million is pretty fucking good. Like, dude, but it's that, and I don't know about you, but have you kind of came across that in your career for you, like where you're just like, is there been anything where you're like, this is not making it? I know we spoke about when you're trying to make music for other people and kind of not enjoying making music, but does there came a point where it's like, I need to change what I'm doing to kind of move forward?
Yeah, definitely. You know, and I think one of the most interesting things about being an artist is like the journey is always evolving. You're always evolving as a person. And I think whenever you reach new destinations, sometimes different states, different like shifts in attitude can become very important. But this is such an interesting conversation, dude, because I think, you know, I'm not here to say that like these aspirations to do better and better are bad. And I actually do think they're kind of important for the label person. It's just important. It's just the key is to keep those powers in check and to know that on a spiritual, human level, the personal connection is far more meaningful. So as long as the importance of the goals is to make sure that you are putting in the effort and putting in the effort in a strategic way. So for me, I mean, I think where I'm at, you know, I think it would be, you know, I'm hoping to, you know, I get a little bit more strategic so that I think my biggest goal.
I can help you with that.
Like honestly, will you be my manager? Dude, but I think, you know, I think like obviously it's nice to get those things, but I'd say like my biggest goal for where I'm at currently is I want to get a little bit better at telling stories and making them clear to people, because I think the idea of narrative is an important one, because that is the missing piece between people coming to your show being confused versus understanding it. And so, you know, I think I just have all these different interests, and I think my job is like, this is how I like to set myself up conceptually, is like artist Justin is like a 8-year-old child with like parents who allow him to do anything. You know, he can just run around doing whatever, play with food. And that's where I think I'll make the best music and not think about it at all. And then the job is to then hand the baton to my inner manager to then figure out like, what is the best way to do this? And I think, you know, it's just, it all depends on the music. And I think for me, it's a bit complicated because the directions that I'm the most excited about right now are very different. It's like, I'm really interested in kind of like quirky, forward-thinking underground club music, and also like singing and songwriting. There's moments of intersection. Like I think the song I just put out, you know, I was so inspired by Burial, for instance. Pretty much spent like 5 hours trying to recreate the drums in Archangel without sampling them, and no Burial samples. But it's obviously not as amazing and refined as him. But
well, you used a sequencer. That's the thing. He didn't, like, none of his was quantized.
It's like SoundForge. Dude, and it's all video game samples.
But the thing is, me listening to yours, I'm like, it's worlds apart, but it's just as good in the world that it's sitting in. If that makes
So
sense.
here, how about this? Well, just for fun, because I think I have like 20 minutes left before I have to run. If that works with you, dude.
Yeah.
Just I think this would be really funny for people. Can I play you maybe 30 seconds of two different songs that sum up
Yeah, do
the
it.
sort of stuff that I'm interested in? Okay. Let's see. Here we go. Boom, boom, boom. Everyone can now see my computer screen. Okay, so here, I'll play you the two directions. This is like what I'm trying to reconcile. So I have like a forward-thinking album that's like inspired by The Matrix.
Yeah.
And here's what it sounds like. Tell me if my sound works, by the way.
Yeah, it's working. You're good.
So that's like one thing.
Yeah.
And so that's like a whole album of that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then here's the other side of me. Hold on. Where is it? Here. Okay. No, it'd be, sorry. Where is it? Hold on. There we go. Perfect. Here's the other side. Let's see if this works real quick. Come on, internet. Give me,
There we go.
I'll play this one a little longer because it's more sensitive.
You're scared. I know you're afraid. You're scared. I know you're afraid. But do you have to be afraid of what they'll say? Afraid of what they'll see. Oh no. Don't fight.
So right before the chorus.
Yeah.
You know, sorry, what you were gonna say something?
No, carry on. Go for it.
No, dude, you first. It's your show. What were you gonna say?
It's worlds apart, but I dig them both.
Aw.
It's like, how are you going to release all of that? Or are you going to release it all? Is it going to all be under Justin J, or is it going to be under different?
So I think at some point I might need to start an alias, but I feel like aliases are actually really more important when you're humongous, because like if you get so big that you're trapped by expectations where like stadiums, like are going to be disappointed because you're doing something different. I don't know. Like I think.
But I disagree with you on that to a certain extent as well, because I think there does come a point, and this isn't looking on the business side of things. This is looking at who your fans are as an artist, right? And I think sometimes the reason why we put aliases out is because and this is only for me, I guess I can only speak for myself, but it's about reaching out to an audience that maybe you wouldn't reach out to before by doing that under a different name.
Why do you say that? Like, do you think reaching out to an audience that you wouldn't reach out to before? Why?
Because sometimes they're not going to listen to what you make normally under your normal name.
They might not give it the fair chance,
Yeah.
You're saying? Yeah.
I think that's just human beings, right? I think I can do it, if you know what I mean. Like, there's so many times where I've been in this situation where I'm like, I can't be bothered to listen to that because I know what it's going to be. And then I listen to it, I hear it in a club, and I'm like, what the fuck is that record? and it's like completely, and it's just like kind of judging a book from its cover is. And I think sometimes aliases allows artists to really just do what the fuck they want.
Yeah,
But you're in a
don't know.
situation where you're doing what the fuck you want.
I think it's all mental, dude. Because, like, I think, because I don't know. I think if you really, let's say, I mean, who would be a good example of this?
There isn't any good examples. Jamie
No,
XX,
there's so many, dude.
not that have came from the house and techno background, that are just gone.
James
from,
Blake.
He's not house and techno though. He's came from
Dude,
a pop background.
He came from dubstep.
Yeah, but his first album was singer-songwriter.
Yeah, but that was the transformation shift. But James Blake was making kind of bangers.
Yeah, they're
like-
great, but they are not club records.
Oh no, but that's what I'm saying. No, they are. He was making club stuff. Like, yeah, dude. Like, look at these. Like, I don't know if you know these labels, but like Hemlock, Hessel Audio, RS.
Yeah.
Like, dude, like these are club. They're artsy. It's obviously not like. It doesn't sound like Adam Beyer, but it's. Fuck, by the way, I fuck with Adam Beyer. But I'm saying James Blake is a good example of someone who like. He just goes on the curveball. Diplo is another good example of someone who just like does whatever he wants. So I don't know,
But
man.
with Diplo at the beginning of his career, he was very like, this is what we do. And then he kind of, when he got to that level where his level was so big that whatever he puts out, it doesn't matter because it's going to get there. I think James Blake came from a very, he didn't come from the house and techno background where he's like a DJ. I'm a DJ. He's always been a songwriter from day one. And
Dude, so here's the thing that I'm curious about, because when you talk about Diplo, and because I think you're someone, this is where our perspectives are different, and I'm so curious to kind of like, I think pretty much the combination of both both perspectives is what will yield the best results. Like, when you talk about the Diplo story and you're like, he presented something specific that was easy to understand, and then it got him big, and then he won back his artistic freedom. Yeah, like, I guess, how do you think about that for yourself in terms of creating a sense of like clear narrative for like, this is what I'm about, this is what I'm doing. Like, I don't know, man. What's been the most meaningful shit that you've done that has helped you kind of achieve this amazing success,
Yeah, I think for me is just being completely open and honest with where I'm at and what I'm trying to achieve.
Right.
And for me, like, it's clear for me, and I don't think it's necessarily always clear for everybody else, but I didn't start on Dirty Bird, but that's where that's where my first success came from. And then I kind of moved away from Dirty Bird and started releasing on more European labels. And then I started my own label. They're like the three transitions in my career. But I'm this like, okay, so this chapter here, I am literally tying this up with a nice little bow, and that bow is never going to be opened again until I feel like I've achieved that next chapter that I've set out to do, if you know what I mean.
Wow, that's so wild. Can you talk to me a little bit about goals? Like, what do goals look like tangibly? Like, yeah.
Tangible. That's the key. That's the key word. Tangible goals. Tangible and achievable. It has to be achievable. Like, I think there's difference between goals and dreams, right? Like, one of my biggest goals and dreams in my life is to headline Glastonbury Festival. It's down. I live 15 minutes away from me. Like, realistically, like that's like 8-year-old Will talking, if you know what I mean. 30-year-old Will is like, dude, come on, man. As Will Clarke, you're never going to headline Glastonbury Festival, Pyramid Stage. You're never, and that's not me being negative about myself. I'm just being realistic, if you know what I mean. But I'm not saying that I would never be able to headline it doing something else. if that makes sense.
You avoided the question, my dude, but I enjoyed your answer. But tangible goals, like what do they look like? You gave an example of for yourself unrealistic ones. I could challenge you on them, by the way.
Yeah, of course. we could challenge everybody on every goal, couldn't we?
No, on every limiting belief.
Yeah.
I think. Well, like limiting beliefs are always good to challenge. But what are some of the tangible goals that you're like that either you've achieved or I want to hear a couple that you have achieved as a start. Like some of the ones that a few years ago you set out to do, and then you fucking did it.
Well,
like, what did that? Like,
yeah, I guess we've spoken about a lot of them. Like, record label was one of the main ones. Also chain, like, not. This sounds really awful, but not being a Dirty Bird artist it was a huge thing for me.
Really? Can you speak to that?
Yeah, of course. Like, I was writing music that was never going to be released on Dirty Bird, and I wanted to be associated with different artists as well. I wanted to play different stages. I felt like being part of the Dirty Bird crew. As much as I love everyone there, and they're still all my homies, I felt like it was holding me back in lots of places in my career, and the only way to stop that is by moving on, if you know what I mean. And also it got to the point where I want to really, it goes back to that enjoying what I'm doing. And there's been a few places in my career where I just don't enjoy, and until I know why I'm not enjoying it, but I have to work that out in that process, right? And the process for me in a lot of working out what I want is knowing exactly what I want, but it's that gap between knowing what I want and then going to achieve it. And it's that gap in between. It's like, how do I achieve it? So let's say, for instance, the record label. How do I achieve it? What's my actual goals of running a record label? Why do I want to run a record label? Well, the reason why I want to run a record label is because, first of all, I want to control everything I release. And if I love a record, most of the records that I'm releasing on my label sonically wouldn't fit on other people's labels. And I don't want to wait 3 months for a label person to come back to me to say they want to release it. Like, I want to release it. Simple. Yeah. I don't want to give a record label something I've spent a long time putting a lot of effort into my records, and then it's just another release to them to kind of boost their career. So for me, like, starting the record label, and also, and this is why I haven't released anybody else's music on my record label yet, because I don't feel like I'm at the point where I can give other people's music the benefit of the best possible release. And that's just the way I want to take the record label. I don't just want to release house and techno on the record label. I want to release really, really fucking good music. And whether that's an electronica record, that's an electronica record, if you know what I mean. But for me, it's just with tangible goals or achievable goals is once I set them, the feeling of ticking them off is fucking amazing at the end of the year.
That's awesome. Dude, so do you have that list written down and then you go boom, boom, boom?
Yeah, we do it. Me and Ryan do it every year. And I also set goals in myself, in personal goals, if that makes sense. And I know, like, what about you? What do you do? Or do you just roll with it?
Yeah, and I think, dude, by the way, very, very inspiring, dude. Really, there's I just feel like there's your success is so like well earned, like how strategic you are, how disciplined you are in terms of goal setting and then achieving these goals. Like, it's very, very impressive to hear, just the way you think about this stuff. And for me, I mean, I think it's been I think I've just needed a lot of time to kind of explore what it is that I need to what it is that I need to do as an artist to enjoy it.
Yeah, man.
That process, I think, was so elusive. It was so confusing to me because for many years I just didn't think about it at all. I just was like making house music, and then got inspired by singing and this stuff. I don't know. I mean, I think my ultimate conclusion is that like I like to do a bunch of different things, and that I don't fundamentally, I guess I've been a little bit afraid of choosing just one thing. And that, there's fears that could be associated with like, will people like it, or am I good enough to be a singer, like that, those types of fears are at play. And then with DJing and club music, it's so different because there was a time where I was like really just like not into DJing or making club music at all. And what I realized,
Why was that?
Why
was that?
Dude, well, I think in part I was inspired by the singing stuff, but also the well of inspiration for production had dwindled because I wasn't refilling it sufficiently. And I think for me in production, it's so different than songwriting, because songwriting is kind of like, it's all about emotion and it's timeless. It's like, we can listen to a song from 100 years ago and,
Still sounds great,
and it'll still make you cry, Production, it's ever changing, and it's just a different side of things. And I think like the most inspiring thing that makes me want to produce is listening to other people's stuff, And when I discontinued, I didn't realize it, but while I was juggling like the band and like songwriting, I was not digging for new music. It was also a confusing time because the chapter I think about is kind of like when Dirty Bird got exponentially bigger. And so it was like, oh, I just play this house music stuff that I've been playing. And I don't know, I just was, in the past couple of years, as I've opened myself up to more genres of music, more styles, listen to more music, I'll hear more stuff and be like, I want to try making that. I want to try making that. And it's an interesting time because I feel like, nowadays, check out like Ben UFO's Boiler Room sets, and it's like 120 to 160. And like everyone's just playing eclectic shit right now. Like everyone's just tossing all this stuff in the blender. I'm talking like, especially like in Europe, labels like Lobster Theremin, Shall Not Fade, Alien Tape, like Alien Tape just the most recent release is one's like a beat tape that's like J Dilla shit, and the next release is like straightforward techno, and I don't know. It's just like, I don't know, man. I think that's been my problem, is I'm just kind of like my focus is on having fun, which gives me the best results. So like how that ends up with a more complex artistic profile, and then how do you work on that? Because I mean, I think, I too have like ambitions to like keep on growing and keep on doing it. But I don't know. I think I've also, I don't know, man. It's just, I think I could benefit from more concrete goal setting, and it's something that I'm working towards more. So that's why, dude, hearing you talk about this stuff, so inspiring, dude. It's
Thanks.
crazy.
I'm always here, man. Is that the thing is, I've learned a lot though during this conversation, because we're completely different. Like our approach is so different, and I think it's a great learning for anyone that's listening as well, and anyone out there that's doing anything in life, is that there's no one way to anything. And
definitely.
And realistically, it's got to work for you, but also I'm fully aware that there's things that I have to be open to change to kind of improve my personal life and my professional life, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. And that's like sorry, what were you going to say?
Sorry to butt in. How do you switch between personal and professional when it comes to and being an artist?
Oh, you mean like my inner artist versus my inner manager?
No, like you being an artist and you living a life.
Right. Right. And being like, hi, I'm a human being
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
oops.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's so easy for me. Like, it's so easy to just be so caught up in the music world, right? And to then sit back and be like I do it so often. I'm like, we're just fucking writing house music, or we're just writing music. In the grand scheme of life, this is fucking a blip in the universe. Like, why, Will, stop taking it so fucking seriously? Like, just chill the fuck out and relax and go and hug your mum or your dad and whatever, or go see your friends or whatever. Like, is there anything for you where you're like, okay, this is what I do to kind of divide the worlds?
You know, I mean, I think for me, making lots of different types of music has helped me kind of stay out of the music industry thing, that sort of mindset, because, dude, playing as a band, you're like, dude, DJing is a fucking joke. Like, dude, the things that go wrong when you're playing with a band, the technical things, microphone feedback.
Yeah. What's
it's
that?
a disaster. It's a disaster. You know, timing, like, you know, DJs have to worry about beat matching, but like, you're never worried about the song just sounding bad when you're playing it. With the band, you're like, this sounds awful.
Yeah, when the drummer's just out of time and just like not keeping time, and then your bass could play it. Yeah,
and most of the time it's my fault that things are going wrong. But so I think that adds a breath of fresh air. And then being in a band and then going to producing, it's like bands, they're doing the same shit that's been being done for like 60 years.
Yeah.
Like, what? You're just doing, you think you're doing something new? It's like, it's like, there's just as, it's like everything that people get serious about in those respective worlds gets flipped upside down for me. And so I think that's been like a very like sort of fun thing where I'm like, DJs need to chill out, bands need to chill out. It's all just music, and none of it matters. But you know, I think it's gone in ways for me, because I think there was a period of time where I had a very intense manager who signed Billie Eilish, and is like he was like the king of making people blow up.
I think I spoke to him before.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Yeah.
And dude, he had this plan for me to like do this Golden Voice tour and then do a big set at Coachella, and I was like, dude, I want to learn how to sing, and I'm horrible at it. I can't play Coachella. And so, dude, we went our separate ways, because I needed to. That was when I made my like home album. I like moved back in with my parents, canceled the big tour, fired people, and reset. And I think ever since then, it's been such a valuable journey of like soul searching. And now I think it's kind of there comes a time where I think it's actually you don't want to lose sight of goal setting and like what are we trying to achieve? Because I think, you know, if your motivations are authentic, like for me, dude, my deepest motivation, if I were to pick one, would be to bring people together. Like that's my favorite part about music. It can bring people together and just, we're all dancing and having a good time. And I think that is such a powerful, beautiful thing. So that's like my deepest goal, you know? And I'm like,
how often do you forget that?
I mean, I think what I forget more is, because see, we're coming at it from opposite places. Like, I forget more to like, what am I doing? I'm like having fun. I'm having so much fun, but like, I got to grow up a little bit also and be like responsible and like move forward through life as well. But I think you can do that without.
Oh, you can 100%.
You don't have to stop having fun. And so I think that's kind of why I think this conversation is so cool, is because I think it's really like, because I do. I do think it's the combination that will ultimately yield the best result.
Totally.
And like, well, that's going to be the key to get you to headline Glastonbury, dude, is to like, you know, if you truly, because I think you look at this case study, what you experienced with Dirty Bird, where you felt like you were being put in a box musically, you broke through that box. The only way to do that was ultimately starting your own label, because no other label would ever sign these types of cross-genre songs. They've gone on to be some of your biggest records and have like probably changed the game for you.
Yeah.
And it's like that process is you removing all of your barriers and then just having fun, but also juxtaposing that with like strategy. And so, you know, I mean, I think the degree to which fun is possible is crazy, because I know you've mentioned to me your interest in like electronica stuff and the Chemical Brothers, and you know, it's like the limiting beliefs of what's possible for you as an artist. It's like they can manifest in so many different ways. And for you, I think, you know, just it's about the synergy between the 8-year-old child who has the aspirations to dream big and your inner manager. You know, you talk about setting tangible, attainable goals. Well, it's like if Glastonbury's at the top, I mean, you don't shoot straight for that.
No,
but
you have to work towards it.
Yeah, but it's like each step sequentially could get you there step by step. It potentially, like, who knows? So, but I think, yeah, man. I mean,
I think sorry to butt in. The key is that we both agree on. You have to enjoy the journey up to it, because otherwise you're going to get there and be like, well, what's next?
Yeah. Or you're just going to quit because you're going to be like, this sucks now.
Well, there's
just
nowhere to go. When you put a roof on what you do, when there's a ceiling and you've reached the ceiling, there's no place to go.
Dude, the thing is, I just feel like there's no ceiling, because
you're right, there isn't.
And also, I mean, it just depends on what your actual goals are. Because if your goals are to have fun with making music, which I think is my biggest thing, is like, let's put that at the core and then have everything else work from that. If your goal becomes like, you know, I want to make like really experimental shit and get my music in a museum or an art gallery, it's like, you know, like the direction you're going can change. And who knows? I mean, like Daft Punk, you know, like I'm sure their shit's in like art galleries and stuff. And
R.I.P.
They've, you know, R.I.P. So who knows? Like, I don't.
They'll be back.
Whatever.
They haven't toured for fucking years, so come on.
Whatever. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, man, I do think, for me, I really do feel it's this issue of like, okay, so it's taken me like 10 years to figure out that like fun is the most important thing.
It's mad, that, isn't it? Because it all started with fun.
Yeah.
Always starts with fun. So I this is a classic saying that I say, is that when you start before you're in the music industry, it's 90% fun, 10% bullshit. Mm-hmm. And then when you get in the industry, it completely flips, where it's 10% fun and 90% bullshit, until you realize why you fucking started it and what got you there in the first place. And what got you there in the first place was just having fun in the studio.
Exactly, dude. Exactly. You know, it's a beautiful thing, dude. Like the beginner's mindset. It's the most powerful thing. And I think, you know, another thing I like is like the hero's journey. You know, it's this idea of, you know, you start somewhere, you face challenges and obstacles, you then learn from them, and then you end up back where you started, so that the process can happen again. And I just think, it's interesting, because when you're a kid and you do not have these preconceived notions of what's possible or impossible, that's when you have the most fun. Totally. And then the thing that seemed impossible becomes possible.
Yeah.
But I think, I don't know, man. I'm going to continue watching your journey, man, because I do feel like I have so much to learn from you in terms of how to like manifest crazy shit, dude.
When I was listening to Rumors, I'm like, this motherfucker, he's done it again. He's releasing something that like is just worlds apart from what you'd expect. And it sounds great. And it's just this, I don't know. And then I'm like, I've got like a bunch of aliases that no one knows about, and some that people do know about. And I'm just like holding off, and I'm like, I should just fucking release it.
Dude, well, here's what I'd love to do, dude. Like, free of charge. Dude, I'd love to hop on another call at some point and you just hear your music and just talk about shit that you're grappling with. Because I think, you know, here's the thing. It's like all of your I'd say like all of your intuition comes from a very well-founded, well-tuned position, because you do have good, like a phenomenal strategic mind. And I am like on the opposite side of the spectrum where I'm like, do it all, release it all. And
exactly.
I think I would be like, yo, why can't you do this? And my guess is that it'd be a conversation where like some things, if I asked you the questions, you might be like, you know what, maybe I can release this. And I would be very curious about the things. Strategy, I feel like so much of it at a certain point is what you do not do, right? I guess, or maybe how you do it. So I don't know. I think it would be an interesting conversation because we are on such extremes, like we would probably learn a lot from each other because I would be like, because the success you've achieved is on a whole other tier than what I'm currently at. Like I'm looking up to you.
But I disagree with that as well. I disagree with that. What is success?
Well, I mean, I think from a purely like label standpoint, like your label's killing it, dude. Like I'm here trying to take some notes.
Yeah, but it depends what your goals are for the label. Your goal for the label was to bring people together, and you've done that on a much better level to what I have. My label's not a label. I've not signed anyone apart from myself.
Right.
So, and I think this is the thing is like, and I know you've got to go, but it's like we've both of our goals are completely different.
No, I mean, they're not, because it's like you need both sides to it. Because like for me, it's like the mission is first and foremost have fun, whether it's art or the label. It's like fun first. Authentic expression is the same thing as having fun.
Yeah.
Could be like, I need to express my fears, my anxieties, my sadness, my anger, whatever. Let's not judge it, but I like to use the word fun to capture that experience of like expressing yourself.
Yeah.
That's step one. Step two is pass the baton to my inner manager and help get it out into the world. And I do think like, you know, like there are such amazing artists that I've come in touch with that I genuinely want to help them get their music out into the world. And I think that's where strategy becomes so important. Like, how can you get something out there? There's so many ways and there's so much room for creativity on that side of things. But I just think it is not about saying, you know, one is good and one is bad. It's like you need both. And it's more about how can these things coexist with each other? You know, how can you have amazing strategy on a business standpoint without allowing it to interfere with the fun? And you know, I just think it's very, very possible. Like, but I just don't know enough about what it means to be truly strategic on your level. And that's where, you know, and that's why like a conversation that's more deep we would like need to reconcile conflicting points of view, because when you are a kid, which is the mindset that I've been you know, adopting, it's like you cannot even comprehend the limitations.
No.
To achieve goals, you need to understand the limitations to move forward. And work within them. But then sometimes you might think there's a ceiling when there isn't. So
because going back to what like the conversation where with my goals is that the limit for me, the limitation to move forward was Dirty Bird. And this is no disrespect to Dirty Bird or to Barkley or anything. Like I'd say this to him and whatever, but that was the limitation. I'd reached the limitation. I'm never gonna be headlining Dirty Bird Campout.
Yeah,
because Barkley is always, no matter, even if I have the biggest record on Dirty Bird, right? Look at Sheba. He's had the biggest record on Dirty Bird. he's still not headlining Dirty Bird Camp Out.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, what I want in my career is I want to be at the top. And what are the limitations that are holding me back to be at the top? And that was one of them. So I had to change that.
You know, and it's just funny because we could have looked at the same sort of issue from the artistic standpoint, you know, and be like, dude, because I went through the exact same journey that you did, but with a different mindset. Because like, and I think it doesn't matter the mindset at a certain point because you just did the damn thing and it worked, you know, like, but it's like, dude, Dirty Bird would have never signed Hallelujah, you know, like, and I think, you know, it's funny because I think, there's times where like, you know, an artist might get pigeonholed as a thing, but if you truly, like, I think this is what I would encourage you to think about, just like in the back of your head is like, you know, you're releasing on all these hip labels, you have your own thing. I think now you could release on Dirty Bird people would be like, he's more than that because you are showing yourself. So it's like, you know, I don't know. That's
no, you're 100% right. And that is the thing is that I know that I'm at this point where I could if I really wanted to. But again, it goes back to that, well, I'd started a label so I can do what the fuck I want.
Yeah.
If you know
totally.
what I mean. And the same for you. Like I've seen that journey for you. I've seen that journey not start at Dirty Bird, but where our worlds kind of collided together. And then I've seen your journey go from Dirty Bird and kind of go down the more singer-songwriter route and kind of build a community around your fantastic voyage. And I do love what you're doing, man. And it's amazing, like having your workshop and releasing all those people's music. It's just it's beautiful, man. It's great to see, and keep that shit up because in the grand scheme of things, that's for legacy and giving back to people is so much more rewarding than anything in life.
It is, dude. It is, man. And you know, I think it just goes back to just personal connection. You know, like always the most meaningful shit, dude. It's crazy. You know, and I think that's what's beautiful about a label. It's like honestly, I think the distinction between what I do with these like people who are like students or whatever, it honestly just feels like what the aspiration is with my label, to like really be there for people and to help people on their journeys wherever they need the help, you know? But yeah, you know, I think, I mean, it just goes back, like, obviously you can tell that I'm fixated on this, but you know, I think there's the journey within and the journey out into the world, you know? Totally. And like, you know, I think you need both.
You do. Well, I think
you neglect one.
I think also from what I can kind of gather with what you're doing with your workshops as well, you're seeing that first art. You're seeing yourself in other people.
Absolutely.
You're seeing that first thing, and like I'm kind of doing some stuff with some people at the moment, and I'm seeing that myself in them at the beginning on like, oh, we need to get this out. We need to get this out. We need to get blah 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 blah, and it's so beautiful to see because you can sit back and just be like, well, this is what I did. This is what this person did. But at the end of the day, I love it that you're just having fun.
I have a really specific question for you.
Go for it.
How long have you been sitting on the various songs in your label for them to come out? Because I know Hallelujah was like a long time. What about like Run Run? You know, how much lead up time do you need these days?
Run Run was made. Run Run is the newest record that I'm probably going to be releasing all year. Run Run was started in May last year and finished in December. But the record that's coming out next, called Place I Belong, that was written 2.5 years ago.
Is that the Needed Pains?
No, that Needed Pains one I wrote in lockdown.
Okay. But your next like self-release single.
Yeah. I'll send you it.
What
about you?
I don't know, man. I mean, it's just there's some shit that I make in an hour and then I send it and then it gets signed or something crazy. That does not happen often to hear back that quickly, but or I'll self-release it.
Yeah.
But you know, sometimes takes years to get the music right. But I think also because I know for you, having heard, you sent me the a version of Hallelujah from like a long time ago, and I know that there's aspects of it that like you needed to kind of sort for the release.
Yeah.
Like so I don't know. I mean, it's just, dude, I'm just fascinated by by the decision making process is really what I'm the most excited to, like, if you're down to hop on a call,
Dude,
like,
whenever.
and at some point in the future. Because
What do you want to know the most? What do you want to know the most?
No, it isn't really anything concrete. It's more so about, like, when you get a little bit, strategy, it's like it always goes down to like, here are the variables at play.
Yeah.
What are we going to do within this context?
Yeah.
So it's like, it's like in business school.
Yeah.
I've never gone to business school, like graduate school, but I have friends who are in that world, and it's like the way they teach it is all like anecdotes. It's all like case studies of like, this is a very hyper specific situation.
Yeah.
Here's what the person did. And I think by seeing a bunch of those examples, you kind of can develop your own ideas for your own like frameworks for how to approach a given situation. I think it's just that's like where I think I'm underdeveloped, is like needing a couple more guiding principles to help me with my decision-making process, because I think it's really to offset my approach of like chaotically releasing music every week, because I think, it's wild. Like, I feel like you never know what song is going to pop off, but
never know.
It's just so incredible to see someone who takes the exact opposite approach and does it so fucking well. Like, where, I mean, just like the first two singles alone on your label, just like, and it's like, and I feel like in those two, you put out two songs, and as a fan, I'm like, this is a new chapter of Will.
Yeah.
Like, you have told a new fucking story and a new narrative. And I think that is a powerful component. That the idea of narrative is the point of intersection between business strategy and artistic expression. Because if you know what your story is and you just want to tell it, that's when you are being honest with yourself, and that's when people come to the shows and they know what to expect.
Totally.
And I think, and that's when the Spotify curators understand what you're doing and want to support you. That's when the festivals want to buy you. And I think that is my goal. Like, I think it's taken me like 10 years to like of chaotic freedom to be like, okay, now the dust is finally beginning to settle. And I think, like, if we had this conversation 3 months ago, it would have been useless, because I like it's a continual process for me. And it's more about figuring, how can I establish this narrative in a way that will not put me in a box the year after, like, I think I'm fine.
Let me buy in there. Sorry to cut you off, but
no,
I
ramble.
I think it sounds really simple, and it's not. And I'd love to help you with it, man, because for me, it was actually working out what I wanted and then telling the story. Like I physically launched a video telling people what I was trying to achieve.
Yeah.
I did a launch video of the record label talking about why I'm doing what I'm doing.
I loved it. I remember, and
Yeah.
I like it stuck with me about, wanting to be more present,
Yeah.
and
and that is the whole goal. That's why the record label is called what the record label is.
Yeah.
And for me, like, and maybe this is kind of this, but it took me so long to work that out. It took me, like, before I was with Ryan, my manager, I was in a management company that was fucking awful, and just not listening to what I wanted, and kind of putting me on shows where I just didn't want to play, and doing all of this stuff. But realistically, and I was so unhappy, but at the end of the day, it was my fault for staying there. It's my fault for allowing allowing. But I had to do that. I had to go through that to get to where I'm at now. And it sounds like at this moment in time, you have to do what you've done to then slowly, like, to let the dust settle, to kind of come out. But the great thing is, you fucking enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Dude, so I'm here for you, dude. Let's get you. Let's like.
But I do now, if you know what I mean. I'm loving it, if you know what I mean.
Good.
I am loving
Good.
it. Dude, we have, in the grand scheme of things, we have the best fucking lives. Like,
I think we do. We do. We are so lucky. But I think having it be the best life on paper and not be enjoyable is something that we all need to acknowledge, that it's like not a guaranteed thing that you're going to enjoy your success or your privilege of being an artist. Because think about, not to get super dark. I mean, this is very dark, but the amount of artists who like
kill themselves,
turn to substances to cope with the disconnects, like it is very important to acknowledge like the fragility of like the human psyche and human
100%.
emotions. And I mean, I just think it's like, it's something that like we can talk about from one artist to another, that it's like you never really understand until you're in the hot seat and you're like, fuck, this sucks. This is bullshit. Culture, you promised me that I would love life once I got the Bentley.
Well, and I think this is the question that I kind of had for you earlier, was like, how do you go from artist to Justin that's not Justin J? And because I think I do it a lot where I bring my artist life, artist work, artist whatever, it is work at the end of the day, it's what we do for a living, into my personal life. And how does it affect my personal life? Because it's so inclined, if you know what I mean.
See, this once again speaks to our differences in approach, because, I think for me, the aspiration has been to like move further and further into being as fucking honest and as myself as possible, where it's like, where the lines get very, very, very blurry, where it's like where it's like there is as little bit of distinction between Justin J the artist and Justin the guy. Like that's my approach. Daft Punk, they're not actual robots. So like, that is like the perfect example of the opposite, and they're probably like my favorite artist. So I don't know, man. It's weird. You don't need to wear a robot mask to have a distinction between work and artist stuff. But I would be pushing you to be like, yo, dude, just be yourself and don't think about it like work. Think about it like there's two human beings inside of you, one who is the artist who is a kid, and the other who is the manager who's the adult who helps the child.
No, because this is the thing, is I don't know if I'm kind of putting the question out there enough, like well enough, because this isn't about, okay, let's say for instance, like an artist kills themselves, right? This is somber, this is dark, but there's a point in that artist's career and their personal career, they could be extremely successful, where on paper everyone looks at them going, they're killing it, right? They're doing the best thing. However, their personal life or their artist life is affecting one of other, if you know what I mean. And how do you kind of like, how do you not let your personal life, because you have a personal life, right? You have your producer life, if you know what I mean. Does it intercline, or do you just class it as it's your life?
Yeah, I do the dangerous game of just like allow them to be the same, and my personal life is, it's maybe it's a little underdeveloped because of that. But I think, here's the thing: it's like, it might be an issue of scale. Like who know? Like I think the more success you get, perhaps the more I could see myself becoming more and more guarded about my personal life potentially. I don't know. It's just I think that's another variable here that makes it more confusing because all I know is my perspective in terms of stature.
Yeah.
But the game, I feel like consistently evolves the bigger you get in certain ways. And so, yeah, like, I don't know though. I mean, for me, there's just no distinction between the person who people see on Instagram.
Totally.
That's the aspiration, for there to be as little bit of a distinction on Instagram versus who I actually am.
Yeah.
You know, but there obviously is, you know, you can choose to, you know, put your best self out on social media, but is that more what you're talking about? Like how your question, where does it manifest? Like, are you talking about what's on social media, or paint the picture more tangibly?
No, for me is like, I guess it's not, if you're down about your career, about where you're at in your life, okay, and that doesn't necessarily have to be about your career, but does let's say for instance, I don't know, split up with a girlfriend, a boyfriend, whatever situation you're in, right? Relationship. Does that affect your artist career?
So, you know, I think the ideal situation is that affects my emotions.
Yeah.
I use my art to express those emotions and reconcile them, and then release the music.
Yes.
And then hopefully any emotional turbulence helps my artist career, which definitely was the case for some of my songs.
Yeah.
Not all my songs are happy. Not all my songs are sad either, but I just think that's the goal. But I mean, yeah, I think that goes down, you know, when I say have fun, I also mean being able to express yourself. And so I think if outside things are weighing upon you, music is the ultimate vehicle to reconcile the shit that makes no sense in your life, whether it's like, I can't believe this girl dumped me, or like, you know, loss, tragedy of any kind. At a certain point, you just can't make sense of some of the stuff that happens.
Totally.
And that's where people turn to religion and music, you know. And I think as an artist, dude, it's like when you are expressing yourself authentically, it's like things might not make sense in your life still, but you at least feel better.
See, when I'm going through it, I can't write music. I have.
Well, you can't write like techno bangers for sure.
No, I have to be in a mindset to write music, like for me. But what I can do is go back to that emotion when I'm in a better headspace. I can be like, okay, so this was the point in my life, and then kind of bring that emotion into the studio when I'm in a bit of a more of a positive headspace.
Fair enough. Well, you know, I just think this is the importance of not being pigeonholed artistically. This is like the staple of my journey.
Yeah.
I was going through a really tough time and did not want to make club music at all. And the idea of club music was like almost incomprehensible. You know, and it's like, that's why I did not want to become a singer, because I mean, maybe parts of me were like, oh, that could be fun and that could be cool. But when I began doing it, it was because I fucking needed to. I needed an outlet to like get dude, I was having like panic attacks, anxiety. I was freaking out to the point where I wasn't sure if I had like a neurological thing going, and really I was just stressed out. Yeah, I was like going to doctors, and they were like, "You're fine." I'm like, "But you're just up right now.
You're just in feelings."
Yeah, and they're like, "Dude, bro, like, get a life coach," and I did, and that helped. But I'm making fun of a situation that for me at the time I was
huge.
Like, it was not a good time, and it was very dark and intense, but musical freedom is so important because it can be there for you. If you are truly free musically, then it doesn't matter what you're experiencing and you can channel it. And dude, you know, that could be like ambient music, that could be like, you know, being at the piano or something. I mean, I do think there's certain, you know, like being able to play an instrument even poorly is like an important thing for that range of dynamic because, but not necessarily. I mean, you could make drones on your synthesizers on one note and make like some Brian Eno shit that's like you venting about like lamentation, like that the world is over or whatever, you know?
Yeah, man. You just, at the end of the day, you just have to do what works for you, right? And we all have different things that work for us.
But I think it's also a process of exploration to realize what are the farthest reaches of your artistic expression and how they can manifest. Because I think that's something that most people do not fully explore. You know, like, bro, you were not born as a house DJ or a house producer out the womb. No, you know, you picked up house music, you picked up techno, you picked up other things. You could continue to pick up things. There's no reason why you can't. And I think, but it just takes a little bit of work and a little bit of overcoming fear, because whenever you try something new, you gotta, you know, it's a little bumpy at first, and that's fine, you know. But I think that's my biggest piece of advice is like, are you truly exploring the fullest range of your own artistic output and ability? You know, like even if the songs never come out potentially, but they could, because dude, that one time when you're in a bad day and making a beatless amp. Have you ever made a song with no drums?
Yeah, I'll send you some stuff.
You're into this like sound design, cinematics stuff, so that makes sense. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. So maybe, you know, we might get specific, but I'd be like, yo, have you ever? Here's a question for you: Have you ever like sang a song at the piano or the guitar?
No,
you ever tried that?
No.
Well, fuck you, dude. Why not?
Because I'm shit
Why the
at
fuck
it.
not?
I'd really love to. I would love to be. I was in a studio session in London actually just before Christmas. I'll send you the record that came out of it, and I was like, I'm moving into that point where I want to do shit like that.
Do it.
For me, it's just the process. I have to process it in my head before I do it. And I have to be like, okay, how do I go about doing this? And then I do it.
You know, and it's like, you see, here's the thing. It's like, how good at you, how competent were you at Ableton or like producing a Logic the very first time you opened your computer?
Oh, terrible.
And it's like, yeah, it's like, how judgmental were you initially? Like if you're so judgmental that you quit before you give yourself the chance to get good, that might be an issue. But I think the reality is, I don't know, man. I just think if you can do one thing, if you can learn a skill, you can learn another one.
Oh, 100%.
Singing is the fucking hardest thing ever, but there's a way to fucking make it work. And you can always just not sing and like, you could do spoken word poetry, which you already do in your house stuff. Like you already, you know, like you have tons of songs that I assume are your vocals, right?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So you're already a songwriter, my guy, you know? But I just think where I would push you is be like, fuck, if you need forms, because when you say like, I'm in such a state that I cannot make music, I would be like, okay, I'm sure there are situations like that, especially if you have no energy. If you are like, taking music requires energy, but if you are fully, there's a point where if things get really, really bad, like the energy starts coming back in the form of like stress and anxiety, and it's like, bro, make some music to get you back in the green. And I would say like, dude, just explore shit. Like even if because my biggest guess, and I could be totally far off, is that you are such a strategic person that you'd be like, I don't have what it takes to be good at this. And that strategy might not be, it might be like, I do not have the time to get good at this thing.
Yeah.
That could be a thing. But, you know, where I would say is like, dude, get really fucking creative, because you can kind of make anything good. Like, you know, Kanye West, you know, that one of his songs that I did not like until I heard him perform it live a couple years ago before he was super crazy was that song, what's it called? Like Runaway.
So
You know what I'm
good.
saying? Dude,
It's
and the
fucking
piano part,
amazing, dude.
a 3-year-old could have written that piano
Yeah.
part. Da, da,
Yeah.
da. It's one note,
So
quarter note. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
It's such a
and-
good record that like I've listened to that so many times on my way to the gym. Like, oh, dude, that record's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, man. Dude, well,
We've just
I
done
think-
2.5 hours, mate.
dude, it went by
It fucking
too fast,
flew
man.
by. It's definitely past my bedtime because it's Saturday night and we're DJs that don't DJ anymore and go to bed at like crazier time in the morning.
What time is it?
It's 20 to 11, so 10:39.
You're such a fucking adult. It's ferocious. Bro.
Dude, I've actually been
I'm-
trying to keep up. I've been trying the last week. I've been trying to stay up later because I'm just like I'm so weirded out at this moment in time where like I'm just like, Will, your life has changed so much that
Right.
like in such a short space of time.
See,
And
well, I feel like this sorry to cut you off. This sums up our shift in perspective. I'm like approaching things from the inner child. You're like the fucking adult. Like you have I went to bed at like 5 a.m. last night.
yeah, I saw that on the WhatsApp. I was like, last seen at 5 a.m. I was like, damn, dude, he's not going to be up.
Yeah, dude. Like, and I think you know, I need to grow up a little bit more and be more responsible.
Maybe we just like meet in the middle and we kind
Exactly.
of and maybe we're the next Daft Punk.
Dude, let's do it.
Let's
do it.
let's finish it on that, dude.
Dude, I love it.
Before we stop, how can people follow you? How can people listen to you, etc., etc.? All the usual.
Dude, don't follow me. Just keep on following Will Clarke. He's got it figured out. Will at DJ Will Clarke on Instagram. But yeah, dude, Justin J Music Instagram. I don't use anything else anymore. But
Me neither.
well, I want to say, dude, thank you for taking the time to chat, allowing me to ramble on about all this crazy shit.
Dude, you can come.
I'm
and
very
ramble
serious.
whenever.
Let's keep in touch and do like a little follow-up call and once you've recovered from my
No, dude, I
Obsessive.
love this conversation. I was sat on the sofa with my parents watching a film, and I watched the rugby earlier. England played rugby, and we got destroyed by the Welsh. And I don't know if you know the relationship between England and Wales, but we hate each other when it comes to rugby.
enough.
And it was just like I was before this call. I completely forgot. I texted you. And that's when I remembered we were talking.
Oh shit.
Yeah. And I was like, fuck it, I can't wait for this. And I got on and it's been a really, really good conversation. I've loved it, man. So thank you so much.
Dude, fuck yeah.
Keep
Fuck
in
yeah.
touch.
As someone who's, you know, I've seen a fair share of your podcast, is like, dude, I hope I can bring the fire, dude.
No, it's been
You know,
good,
some
man.
big shoes to fill,
been
dude.
good.
Patrick Topping and shit.
Yeah, dude. Keep safe and hopefully see you in a rave soon, mate.
Dude, much love, dude. Take it
Big love.
easy and I'll
See you in
talk
a
to you
bit,
soon.
dude. Take care, man.
Peace. Bye.
And that's a wrap. Wow, what an amazing podcast. I absolutely loved that. Thank you to Justin for coming on. It was great. If you enjoyed it, please hit the comments below or hit the share button or send it to your mates or whatever. It just keeps the show going. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Have a great week. Whatever you're doing, keep safe, and I'll see you next time on the show.